Mr. Brown Mouse meets Mrs. Giraffe. Once upon a time, there was a little brown mouse who lived in a beautiful forest near a winding river. He had a nice cozy house with a bright red door, all built into the side of a big tree. His name was Mr. Brown Mouse, and he was a very brave mouse. In fact, he wasn't scared of anything. He loved exploring and he loved adventures. Today, he had decided that he was going to cross to the other side of the river for the very first time. He wanted to see what he could see on the other side. He put on his boots and jacket, packed some honey biscuits into a little bag, and started to get very excited. He decided he would walk right down the path to the edge of the river and find a way to cross it. When he got to the river, he saw Mrs. Hippo. She was splashing in the water, swimming around and having a wonderful time. Mrs. Hippo, said Mr. Brown Mouse. Do you think you could take me across to the other side of the river?
Oh, wonderful,
said Mrs. Hippo.
I would love to, but you have to be careful, okay? My back is wet from splashing around and I don't want you to fall off.
Don't worry, said Mr. Brown Mouse. I'll be very careful. He picked up his bag and climbed up an old tree trunk that was leaning out over the water. Mrs. Hippo swam over to the river's edge near the tree trunk. Mr. Brown Mouse leaned right out over Mrs. Hippo and, holding onto the branch with one hand and his bag with the other, he bent his legs and jumped. Now everybody knows that hippos' backs are very big, but they are also very slippery when wet. Mr. Brown Mouse was very good at jumping though, and he landed easily. Plop! Right in the middle of Mrs. Hippo's back. Wow, this is great, he thought. Mrs. Hippo has such a big back, there is no way I could fall off. And so, off they went. Mrs. Hippo pushed off deeper into the water, and, with her big, strong legs moving backwards and forwards, they began to move towards the other side.
Can you see Mr. Crocodile?
Asked Mrs. Hippo with a smile. Now everybody knows that crocodiles like to keep their heads under the water, so that just their noses and their tiny eyes stick out. Crocodiles are very clever and they love swimming. Mr. Brown Mouse looked this way and that, but he couldn't see Mr. Crocodile anywhere. Mr. Crocodile, where are you? Said Mr. Brown Mouse. Mr. Crocodile's face rose up out of the water. Oh, hello, that's very close, said Mr. Brown Mouse. You were right there the whole time. Yes, said Mr. Crocodile. I'm very good at hiding in the water so that nobody can see me.